Welcome to the Finance Show, sponsored by Beaufort Securities. I'm joined by Matt Brown, market commentator here at Core London. Morning to you, Matt.
Good morning.
Right, let's kick off. Headlines, market movers, stocks drift higher. I always thought stocks drift lower, but there you go. M&A sparks investor interest.
Yeah, a few things going on. Obviously, we've still got the North Korea situation going on, the UN Security Council. China's turning around and basically telling North Korea and America, just, put your toys down. Let's just calm down. Have a bit of common sense. Now, I was looking into the North Korea situation last night, and look, there's always been an issue. There've always been missile testing. Look, it's been ramped up a little bit, but I think the market now, the issue is, how does Trump react?
Yep.
And that is key. Is he going to get frustrated with the situation, do something stupid? Let's hope the military advisors around him are whispering his ear, telling him to take his finger off the button. But I think that's the key thing now. We're seeing developments in North Korea. Yes, they're not fantastic, but they've always been posturing. They have since the 1960s been doing such things and been looking to have a nuclear program. More as a deterrent, more just to give them a bit of muscle in the global markets. But again, it boils down to Trump. So I think the markets now are starting to realise actually what North Korea is doing, okay, it's not great, but it's not going to move the market in a negative way too much. It all comes down to Trump and the US response, and I think that's what we're looking at this morning. Elsewhere with the markets, we saw some good PMI data come out of China, a little bit weaker out of the UK, car sales in the UK as well, a little bit weaker, and Europe, but nothing really to drive the market in either direction.
Yep.
The US is back from a long weekend today, so let's see if they can give us some direction. But that's really where the market is. But we've had some M&A activity. We always like M&A,
yep.
And keep investors going. So Aveva and Schneider, the French company, buying a software company or a reverse takeover of a software company based in the UK. We're going to run out of software companies in the UK. It's the one thing we seem to be doing well, but it's coming in, and it goes to show there is a lot of strength in the UK software sector and possibly some read across for some other stocks, but some positive news on the M&A front this morning.
Understood. Let's move on to FTSE. One to watch today, Barrett Developments PLC. They're reporting this week. What's caught your attention?
Reporting tomorrow. The house builders have taken a lift up this morning on the back of Redrow, FTSE 250 stock, seeing sales up 20%. Now Barrett Developments, the stock itself is up about 30% this year and keeps going from strength to strength. And I think a lot of these house developers or house builders have been doing very well. The fuel on the fire has been the help to buy schemes from the government. Now they are intending to finish in 2021, so still got a few years, and there's still a lot of demand for house builders or houses, let's say, in the UK. But investors, be aware, it's had a strong push up. Numbers due out tomorrow. Can they meet the forecast that they set out earlier in the year? Just be aware. That's
top
what
of the
I've
market,
got to say.
top of the tree. Right, let's go on to
the market. There we are.
Let's go on to an AIM stock today, Belvoir.
Belvoir, yeah, sounds a very kind of French name, but this is a letting agency,
right.
Rental agency, again in the residential space in the UK. They've had some good numbers this morning. I think revenues up about 13%. So again, just following on from the Barrett developments, there are smaller stocks as well that seem to be performing on the back of this uplift, and that's in the letting space, but not in the new house build space.
Right.
There's a lot of movement and a lot of money being made in that sector.
Okay, so let's talk currencies. Let's talk about the Great British Pound. The Euro, Great British Pound crossed 91.92. Parity on the horizon, and cable 129.23. Quite a dull slide at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it hasn't really been moving, and we're seeing, with a lot of other currency pairs as well, say dollar yen stuck in a range. And I think a lot of FX traders now are probably looking further afield, looking at Canadian dollar, looking at Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. These are the commodity currencies, and they've had an uplift, and we're seeing basic commodity prices rise, and why is this? On the back of, we've seen some strong data out of China, and China's performing well. That's helping push everything up. Gold, as we know, is the safe haven currency.
11-month highs this week, copper 3-year highs.
Yeah, Dr. Copper performing well. So at the moment, these currency pairs are really out of focus for FX traders, and I think they're looking for volatility and breakouts in other other areas.
Okay, so let's talk about the broker upgrades today. We've got Morgan Stanley, Paddy Power, Betfair, equal weight, previous recommendation, overweight. £75, previous £98.
Yeah, the betting industry, it's interesting. A lot of brokers are starting to pull back their recommendations on Paddy Power, Betfair, although they did perform very well on the McGregor fight, Mayweather-McGregor fight. I think they did quite well, so we may see some of that.
Ladbrokes were relieved, weren't they?
Yes, Ladbrokes very relieved in the next results. But it's interesting. We've seen Triple Eight have a big fine. Their numbers were down this morning, and it's an interesting play. I mean, Ladbrokes themselves, I think, have come out and said they're one of the biggest donators to political parties. They want to be in the ear of MPs. There's a big question mark about these industries and how they're not representing the gamblers that have issues, and then we saw Triple Eight had a big fine. So I think Morgan Stanley and a lot of other brokers are now looking at that whole sector and saying maybe it's a little bit overvalued, let's reduce some targets.
Understood. Let's move on to the core number. Today is 60. What's that number?
Yeah, I picked this out. It actually was in City AM. This is the number of exchanges or cryptocurrencies that are in China, and now China's looking at
number of exchanges.
Yeah, exchanges, and looking at legislating against that. Now we're seeing a lot of software companies who aren't able to raise cash in, say, the IPO market or the debt market are actually now issuing their own cryptocurrencies. So they're two at a penny. There's so many out there. Even Burger King, I think, last week was going to issue burger coins. Now, these are just basically air miles or reward schemes to consumers. So, look, the marketplace is getting very crowded. China's looking at legislating against them. And we saw yesterday Bitcoin and Ether drop quite considerably. I think Ether was down 20%, or Ethereum is the exchange, and Bitcoin down about 10%. Has had a bounce today, but again, it's that everyone, Uncle Tom Cobley and all are trying to get involved into the market, and there are going to be issues, and it's an unregulated market. So just be aware if you're new to trading and new to these markets, there are
investigates thoroughly. Exactly. Right, let's wrap up with the economic calendar. Today in the EU, retail sales. In the US, we've got some Fed speakers, some factory orders. Wow, it's all pretty dull again, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty dull. Looking ahead to the ECB meeting at the back end of the week, don't expect any shocks there. But on the macro front, fairly quiet. Let's wait for the US to come back into the market, see what they make of the whole North Korea thing. Let's see if the Nasdaq can push to even higher all-time highs. I mean, it's incredible, but onwards and upwards potentially.
Thank you very much indeed.